Hi everyone, this is Dee at Aloha Astro, and as I mentioned a couple of days ago when I did the new moon in Leo forecast, I happened to come across the news story about Salvador Dali, the famous surrealist painter, and his exhumation that involves a paternity suit that has been actually ongoing for about a decade, where a woman claims to be his child, his daughter, and she is seeking money from his estate. So I found it to be very interesting looking at his chart, reading the bio. One of the best things that you can do if you want to learn astrology, rather than picking up the basic astrology books that teach you what the different aspects mean or the different houses and planets, once you get that out of the way, or you know that you can look that up anywhere, start looking at charts. Just dig in, get right into a chart. And one of the easiest ways to get into a chart is to go over to astro.com, where they have a data bank of a lot of famous people in the world, and you can read the biography and then look at the chart and kind of connect the dots between what went on in the person's life, or if they're still alive, what's going on in their life, and what their personality is like, and then take a look at the planetary positions and the signs and the planets within the chart wheel. And that is one of the easiest ways to actually learn the nuances, because when you go by a formula book and you learn about each individual aspect or each individual sign, you're not actually combining or blending all those different things together. And that is something that only comes about through lots of practice of looking at charts and thinking about the person, or observing the person, or reading the history of the person, or asking them about their lives, so that you can make the connections between events, relationships. All of this data here can teach us an awful lot about Salvador Dali and the transits to his chart, what happened when, the types of people that he was drawn to, and that can help us understand the positions of the planets within his natal chart. But the thing that really jumped out at me, I read about this, I believe, like a day or two before the new moon. And then when I went to look at the current transits to the chart, this is something that astro.com will allow you to do, is toggle on the transits. So we click this little with transits button, and then we can see where the planets are in his chart. Now, yes, he's gone, he's dead, but really our charts live on. We live on. I don't feel we ever die, and I do think that the chart can have a significant impact in terms of our popularity or our legacy, or how we continue to move forward in life among the memories of other people, or if we do happen to achieve a certain level of success or fame, or if we produce something that affects society as a whole. I feel that, if we're just not an average Joe, we're definitely going to see these little pops of events or things that occur that will correspond to the natal chart. And I find it particularly interesting that the new moon, well, now the moon's advanced over to Virgo because a few days have passed since the new moon of the 23rd. But at the time of the new moon, and right around the time of his exhumation, we had the moon passing over his ascendant, and then the new moon occurring conjunct Mars. And he was basically born again, or brought back up, came into our consciousness again, was brought back to life. And the issue, too, of paternity, if you consider that these planets are opposing his natal Saturn in the 8th house, and the Aquarius energy here can have to do with things that are unusual or out of tradition. So this can show an unusual marriage partner or something that was non-traditional. Saturn is a father planet. It has to do with paternity or the patriarch. And here we have an opposition going on in general toward himself and the claims being made. And this will become more noticeable by the time we get to the full moon on, I believe it's August the 2nd, and the full moon will be occurring, I think it's going to be at 17 degrees of Aquarius. So let's see if it's going to give us an answer as to the paternity. And I read in the news article that it will take them about 2 weeks. They've gathered their genetic material. So his Saturn is at 20 degrees of Aquarius, and that full moon, which will bring things to a culmination, will be occurring conjunct his natal Saturn in that 8th house. And the 8th house rules things like sex, death, taxes, metaphysics, the occult, business partnerships, investments, inheritances. It's money, but long-term money, or money that we have that goes on beyond us or came to us from somebody else. So his estate, basically, his worth beyond his life is right now being questioned, and whether this woman has an actual claim to it. And I honestly do think that she probably does, based on what is going on right now. Transiting Venus, joining natal Pluto. This is a feminine planet, and it can represent a daughter or mother or wife, some female that he would have had potentially a family bond with, is transiting over Pluto, the planet of death, and this is the 12th house of the subconscious, also of things that are hidden or kept secret. So this may be quite an it already is an upsetting thing. The foundation that is in charge of him and his money, or whatever, his work, is not all too happy about this, and this can be a big upheaval. Pluto is a planet of upheaval, and very interesting to me that a woman now is basically creating this upheaval, and I do think she stands to gain and be his sole heir because of the pattern in here to Jupiter, in the sextile to Jupiter in Aries, transiting Uranus very close to natal Venus as well, and the double Uranus energy here being activated by both Saturn. The settlement may be a little time off legally, but Saturn is approaching Uranus, and Uranus is approaching Venus, and I do think that the woman may indeed, it may be proven, this is also a very physical house, that there may be evidence from his body that does state that indeed this is his daughter, and that she will get the money from it or the settlement from it. So it is very interesting. And Jupiter, growth or gain, the 4th house of home and family. So he's gaining the knowledge, the recognition of a child, and it's a parental house. So it will then change his history, that now he is acknowledged as being father to a child. So that is what's going on. Mercury transiting through his 2nd house of money, the discussion around his money and what will become of it in light of this woman now has managed to move forward with her claim, which has been a long time in coming. And here is a photograph of her, and she definitely does look a lot like him. So I am wishing her the very best if she indeed is his daughter, and I will be following this story to find out what becomes of the situation, and if we actually see events occur according to the time markers in terms of the transits. If something will be going on at the full moon, if we'll hear about this again in the news about 2 weeks from now. So that is what's going on in Salvador Dali's life. And I got a lot of enjoyment out of reading his bio and then looking at the aspects between his planets and learning about him and his uniqueness. It's evident in here. He's very emotionally driven in his work and basically put his emotions or sensitivity forward and saw the world in a different way, brought a different view of things out to people through the moon, Neptune, and Uranus. Uranus in the 6th house of service-related work, Neptune in the 12th house of the dream state, the other planes of existence, imagination. Many artists have a busy 12th house, and his narcissism, his individuality, well, this Aries energy up here, it's hard not to go out into the world and say, I am. And he was an expresser of uniqueness, and sometimes in shocking ways, and he gained from it. And I think that it continues, probably his art would continue to be making money. I don't know how that happens beyond death, but his affairs and his business still live to this day. So he endures, and his Sun, Mars, and Mercury here in Taurus in the 11th house of friends, groups, organizations, and also the stage, the gallery, or the audience where the public receives him. They continue to be very strong, and that he continues to go on and be here in our consciousness beyond his death, and probably, for throughout human recorded history, this will be an artist who is well known. So anyhow, as promised, that is the video on Salvador Dali, and you can follow along in the news and see what happens with him.